Welcome to Biggest Geekus. We're your hosts. I'm Randy.
And I'm Joe.
This is episode 36 for podcast. The date is Wednesday, May 12th, 2021. What's shaking, Bacon?
Cabin Con is tomorrow.
Oh my God. We're already in the positive material plane, and I'm not sure I can talk about anything else. Cabin Con is tomorrow. I will talk about something else, but probably not very rationally. All I can think about is going to Cabin Con tomorrow, bright and early.
Right.
6:30.
But we're going to actually start with some call-ins.
Mm-hmm.
And we are up at the crack of dawn.
Dawn's crack. That doesn't sound good.
For all you listeners out there.
Yes. So you should get up. They should get up early too and listen to this.
Yeah. Actually, we're doing it for our wives so we can have the rest of the day.
Yes. We're so nice.
Starting with Jason.
Are you going to share it with me? Am I going to be able to hear?
Why? Why would I do that?
I don't know. It just seems like a crazy thing that you just might want to do. And you can hear some of my lovely comments. Lovely. Jason. And now, go.
Hey guys, Jason here. I wanted to save my call so other people could get their calls in first. That's why I'm calling you so late. Actually, truth is, it's one of my rare days off, and I saved the podcast because I wanted to listen to it while I was cutting the grass today on my magnificent, majestic 1.3 acres that Chateau Connerly is set on. Anyhow, I don't really have any comments for the main topic. I pretty much agree with everything you guys said. All those things can be time wasters and affect the enjoyment of the game, but there are good workarounds around most of them. I did subscribe to your YouTube channel. I don't know how often I'll get to watch it. If you release podcasts on YouTube, chances are I'm just going to listen to the podcast. But if you have mini segments on there or whatever, I'll try to catch them as I can. But it might be a few days later when I have a rare day off.
Dude, Jason, don't delay, man. You got to keep your number one spot. He did, though, didn't he?
He did.
Dude, even when you're not trying, you're the first. That's what I call skill. Hey, the podcast is not going to become a YouTube thing. I mean, we're not going to.
Not transitioning.
There is no danger that we're going to let this massive success go to our head. Like, I don't know, a certain Tinkar who now does everything awesome and only on YouTube. No, he does podcasts. I'm just giving Eric some crap. But yeah, don't worry, Jason. You're going to hear our dulcet tones, our Joe's dulcet tone and my weird voice on podcasts. We have no plans for YouTube being the main thing.
No, it's just another way to help grow the audience. That's all.
Yeah.
And
we're watering the lawn of our RPG landscape.
Yes, and because we're doing that, we have a small audience.
Yeah. Right. After Negative Plane today, we'll probably have an even smaller one.
Yeah.
We'll go from 4 to 2.
We're cultivating.
Yeah, a quality audience.
And as far as short snippets, I've heard from a few venues that it would be a good idea to do that. So
okay.
I may be doing that, chopping things up and having things like that.
Choppy chop. Sounds good.
As far as the negative material plane goes, yeah, I'm just not excited about any of these upcoming movies from DC or Marvel, to be honest. I don't subscribe to Disney Channel anymore, so I haven't seen WandaVision. I'm not worried about seeing any of this stuff. It just doesn't excite me or interest me anymore, to be honest. I'm not saying I'm never going to watch any of their new movies. I'm just saying it's not a high priority. Nowadays, I'm watching the DC animated universe, as I've talked about, and I'm from the 90s, and I'm reading the old comic books, and that's what I'm doing for my superhero, to get my superhero, whatever the word I'm trying to say is. My superhero fix. There we go. And yeah, I know when I'm paying for DC Universe Infinite or whatever it is, and the Marvel Unlimited, I'm giving the parent companies money. I get that.
Dude, we all have to make choices. I don't blame. I'm tempted to do DC Universe. Joe may get a pretty sweet little birthday present next January. He may have it too, or Marvel for him. He can read Doctor Strange. You never can tell.
Never can tell. Sounds
never
good.
Never can tell. But anyway, I just I'm with you. I watched WandaVision, as I said, and I have not watched Winter Soldier and Winter Falcon. That's not his name, but Captain Falcon. I don't know. Whatever. I'm with you, brother. You do you. It's cool. Anybody in the world could watch that stuff. I don't care.
Right, right.
But at least it gives me access to what I want to read, the older comics from the 60s, 70s, 80s, and I don't have to worry about anybody pushing anything on me in the old comics, and they're not altered, so it's fine. You can't live your life not paying companies that you disagree with, because heck, you'd have to be Amish, or you have to sit there and make all your own stuff or something to do that. Because pretty much every company out there is friggin' decided to be socially active these days, and they're all doing something stupid or another. But as far as WotC goes, I bought the 5e starter set and essentials kit. I haven't opened. They're still in the cellophane. I'll probably give them away on a giveaway on my show sometime, because I just not whatever. I'm just not that interested in 5e because I play other games. But it's all good, and like you say, I don't wish them any harm.
No harm.
No. And I think you can. I actually think you can. I'm going to disagree a little with Jason. I think you can absolutely live your life without paying to any kind of corporation at all. Now, whether or not the government will allow that to happen, people that have streams running by their water. I'd heard a story. I don't know, Joseph, you told me or someone untold me about a guy, and this is from anywhere. I don't know where it was. It could be a story about nobody. Had running water, and he set up. He was an engineer or something. He was pretty crafty, and he was drawing electricity from his stream. Were you the one telling me that?
Well, there are people that do that. It's difficult. It's
difficult. But he managed to set it up where he was running a pretty nice house with that, and then come shut him down. And I am not cool with that. But I think that'd be the hard part. But you can be off the grid and you can do what you want. But I'm with you. I mean, at some point, and I have different lines. I listen to some stuff. I read some stuff that I support some things I'm not cool with some of their premises. But I guess it's just, if they don't shove it in my face, I'm more likely to buy it. If they do shove it in my face these days, I'm more likely to say, I don't need you.
Yeah, I think what it was is there was a body of water, a stream, river, whatever, on this fellow's property.
Yeah.
And he diverted it. It's on his property.
Oh.
He diverted part of it to be able to do this thing. And there's a law that went into effect with not the previous administration, but the one before that, where even if the thing is on your property, you can't do that. And a body of water, you can't. There's a word for it. I can't remember it.
I guess honestly, diverting water could be an issue in terms of diverting those things could be an issue if everybody did it. But if he I thought the guy maybe just connected to it, and I'm
he diverted it and it returned back.
Oh,
so it's not like,
well, then who cares?
Yeah, it's not like he was preventing someone downstream from getting water.
Or wasn't slowing it. He didn't slow it down. He just gave it another path.
Yeah.
Oh, which is probably very minimal.
Yeah.
Probably very minimal. Yeah, whatever. Okay. Cool.
Same thing with Paizo. After Paizo pulled the whole, we're so sorry we offended people because we have you playing City watching a game and police are bad. Screw them. Paizo's not getting a dime from me. But yeah, you guys nailed it. The difference is, if a company is doing stuff I don't like, or I don't like their products, then I don't support them. But I'm not calling for everybody else to ban them and to burn their, to out them and dox them and attack them and go to the bank and tell the bank to not give them loans and not support them. I'm not trying to cancel anybody. I'm just not going to support them. And that's the difference when you look at the hardcore left in America. I don't know what else to call it. They want to ruin people's lives as opposed to just not support them. And that's bullshit. Screw them.
Indeed.
Yeah. And yeah, Josh, Jason, they're early in the morning. I tell you, that's my excuse. That's my story. I'm sticking to it, Joe. But yeah, he's right. And they are the hardcore left. That's exactly who they are. I would call them the lunatic left. I'm not apologizing. So that's crazy talk. You don't do that to people. It's fine to boycott, but that's the different. Canceling is next level.
Right. I mean, that's a kind of take on the way our government is supposed to work, which is Republican, where everybody does their own thing statewise, and we don't get in each other's business.
And just to clarify, not that you have to, Republican is the actual, Joe means the actual meaning of the word.
Small r.
Yeah, a republic, not the Republican Party, who's no better, who is no better than the Democrats, in my opinion.
Yeah.
You guys are probably at Cabin Con or did Cabin Con by the time you get this, or have done it, or anyhow, I hope Cabin Con goes great for you guys this year. I look forward to hearing about your experiences there, and I'm wishing you guys the best. Keep up the great work. Talk to you soon.
Dude, Cabin Con is tomorrow. I am going to jump out of my seat, and Joe's response of tomorrow is the most excited he'll be. I love it. Yes.
Joe, I also don't want to blow out my
Joe's
speaker
or
my mic.
That's right. I keep hollering. I'm sorry. Because I heard it wasn't on one episode that you actually could hear me. I went crazy, and then you could it blacked out or whatever. What happens? It just gets overloaded because my voice is so
it clips,
overpowering.
So
powerful.
You overpower the capability of the microphone to receive.
I'm thinking of a Tenacious D song. My voice is powerful.
Yeah, it's like a water hose.
Yeah, baby.
All right. Next up is John Allen Large.
Big John.
Hey guys, it's Johnny from the Red Dice Diaries. Just listening to your latest episode, a little bit of the way in. And yeah, I know the orange spine of the second printing, but what can I say? Originally, I was just like, oh yeah, it'd be really cool because they'll all be like the same colour and they'll all be matching and they'll all be nice on my bookshelf. Unfortunately, shows the joke's on me, because I bought most of them obviously second hand. Some of them have got faded spines, some of them like the colours like bled out of them a bit. So they still don't match 100%, but they still look pretty cool on my shelves and I still enjoy reading them. You know, got to get a bit of that 18D like first edition goodness, which sort of bleeds into my OSR games. Anyway, I'm going to get back to listening to the episode, guys. Keep up the good work and I'll catch you soon.
Well, I guess if you can't get the original ones, second printings would be fine.
I suppose.
I suppose.
If you have to slum.
No, John. Peace. That's cool.
Fucking hell, guys. I'm enjoying the episode, but if everyone got attacked for not being positive all the time by that plane itself, shit, I'd be in an awful lot of trouble. Hey there, guys. It's John here from the Red Dice Diaries again. Still listening to your latest episode. And the bit where you were sort of saying about having like hundreds of like words and years worth of history written down for particular scenes. I've got to admit, I've been sort of guilty of that myself in the past. But I've recently picked up Sly Flourish's Lazy GM books, which try and get you to sort of zoom in and focus in on the bits of prep that are really important. So basically it's saying, like, it's not saying you shouldn't have any prep, it's just saying you should focus your prep to get the most benefit out of like the prep that you're putting in, rather than just sort of like doing loads of prep that's never going to be used in a game and that pretty much goes to waste. Now I've got to admit, I was a little bit skeptical of this approach when I first read it. But, you know, I like to try new things out. So I used that method when I ran my last White Star session. And I probably had maybe like 8 index cards with like notes written on the front of them, you know, bullet points and whatever. Ran that, the session seemed to go well. And the feedback I've had from the players has been sort of pretty positive about it. There was no one being like, oh, you were dreadfully unprepared for that session, John. How very dare you? So it seemed to go pretty well. And obviously I'm not willing to say, having just used it once, that it's like a cure-all for all your GMing woes, but I'm definitely going to give it another try just to see, you know, if it continues to work. But like I expect people's mileage may vary, but it's definitely an approach I found interesting, and it really did force me to think about like what's actually important with my prep, rather than just trying to write everything, which is something I tend to get sort of sucked into a way of like writing. Anyway, I'm enjoying the episode, dudes. I'm going to get back to it. Take care.
Oh man, dude. He's speaking to me there, dude. So One of my several games I'm running at Cabin Con. Here's 6 pages. 6 pages on an alien RPG I've never run on one scenario that's meant to be a 2 hour to 4 hour game. So this is all
overachiever.
I just can't. I gotta break it. I'm with him. I've got Lazy GM. You would think I would read it. So I got both of them, his first version and the second one. The second one's more complete. I think he's spot on, really, with this parts I've read and what John said. I think that's the way I got to go. I'll get more bang for my buck, but gosh, it's so hard. I have a hard time not just going, like I said before, I enjoy the prep. So it's not like I'm not having fun, even if you guys don't use it. I enjoy it.
Yeah, I like the lazy method. I think I liked his first one better, I think.
Oh, really?
Than his second one.
Second one, 2 produced?
Other reasons.
Okay. I've yet to read it fully, so.
Yeah.
Hey there, guys. John again from the Red Dice Diaries, just listening to your negative material plane. And yeah, I mean, I don't know about the tired tropes of gothic horror. Horror films and stories still seem pretty successful. But I tell you what is a tired trope. Wizards of the Coast, like re-releasing some old shit for 5th edition. That's a trope I'm a little bit tired of. So I've got to admit, I agree with Joe. I mean, like, why keep arsing around with old stuff? Just make some good new stuff, You employ all these people. Why not? But, I suppose with the OGL and people producing other sort of D&D stuff, really all they've got sort of going back to their old stuff that was popular and trying to cash in on it again. Who knows? Anyway, enjoying the episode, guys. Take it easy. I'll catch you soon.
Yeah, I agree with that, obviously, because he agreed with me, so I'm going to agree.
Oh,
right
yeah,
back.
100%. That was great. Yeah, Watson needs to stop with their old tropes. He's right.
I can understand why, but
Yeah.
I don't think you need to expend that many resources to do a light retread, update to the newest edition, and go. But they have to totally redo and apply current social theory to it as well.
Well, even if we pull out the social theory part, I'm with you. The retreading, why not just say, hey, here's an article on Dragon Magazine, which they have an electronic version of, that kind of explores how you could 5Eify Ravenloft, then how you could 5Eify the Dark Sun. But,
concentrate their massive, well, I don't know how many people they have working there, but
compared to other companies, massive, yeah.
Yeah, to new stuff.
Right. Agreed.
Hey guys, I've just finished listening to your latest episode, and I wouldn't worry about offending me, given the fact that I was sat there all the way through the negative material playing bit going, yep, that's right, yep, like nodding along with my head as I was listening to it. So definitely not going to offend me. I mean, obviously, like, myself and Hannah have different views about this sort of thing, but as I would hope normal, healthy people can do, we can discuss these views and we can accept the fact that we have different views without sort of like calling for further action and people to be unpersoned, as you guys were very sensibly suggesting in the episode. Anyway, very much enjoyed it, and I look forward to the next one, guys. Take it easy.
Yeah, that's cool, John. I made that comment. I'm going to go. I said something before we took it out because I thought it was a little, I don't want to say unkind, just unnecessary. And so I needed to, that's why I said that. I apologize, but I figured you'd take it well. And Hannah's a reasonable sort too. But yeah, there's no reason. You absolutely can disagree and go on about our business and be cool with each other. So
can't disagree with me. I'm right.
Except Joe. Joe, you have to accept whatever he says.
You get the hammer. You get the hammer if you're wrong.
You get the hammer if you're wrong, and mainly because he's always right. So, but yeah, no problem.
And finally, from our friend Patrick.
Who is this mysterious man?
Hey guys, it's your boy Patrick. Jason, ma'am amicus, you haven't offended me. We have a simple difference of opinion on gaming philosophy. I'd share a game table with you any day of the week. Take care, brother. As for you, Randy and Joe, for me, being free to have the wrong opinion, jealousy is such an ugly trait and doesn't suit you. I'll see you two grog nerds at Cabin Con.
Uh-oh. I think we might be in for a nut kick, Joe. Oh, Joe's yawning at you, Patrick. That's
I
like throwing the
yawn
gauntlet down.
Yeah, I yawn in your general direction.
Yeah, baby. We're under 24 hours till Cabin Con. Eat that.
Well, for us, some of our illustrious crew will refrain
Dude,
from.
Did you see what Eric said on there?
earliness.
Did you hear what Eric said?
He won't get up before 9.
Yeah, I had to call him out on that. Did you see that?
No, I don't
called him
frequent
out.
Facebook.
Sleep is for the weak.
It is.
Oh, baby.
And human. And the human.
And the human, yeah. So as you can tell, the positivity is all about Cabin Con. So
Yes.
Tomorrow's at 24 hours away. Do you? It's so awesome. Do you have trouble sleeping the night before?
Actually, I had trouble sleeping last night. I woke up.
Because you're thinking about Cabin Con?
Yeah, I woke up at 3:30.
Oh,
to
my.
use the bathroom.
Right.
And I'm like, mine's going. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. One, I need to actually prepare for the podcast. I've had a busy couple of days, so
Right.
I was able to read the articles,
Right.
and so that wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
But I normally try to set up the show notes in advance and then make minor edits if I need to afterwards.
Get those spaces right that I screw up.
Yes.
Dude.
And then I made some notes. Is I haven't really done a whole lot of prep for.
I got it, baby.
For DMing.
I got you. I'm going to DM like a madman.
Right.
But
so I do have some prep done, and there's more to do. There's a little more to do.
Yeah.
I actually stole some stuff from John Allen Large's website.
Well done.
Stole as in copy paste.
Oh, yeah. You like that, John? You put it on there. It's free, baby. No, but besides prepping, I got a game I'm running, a Supers game, Josh's big 5-issue Supers game we're going to do. And I wrote it last year completely. I haven't looked at it yet. So I better remind myself, since I'm running it tomorrow. I've got it in a little folder, but I'm all separated. I put my gear together today. I'm actually thinking of taking small boxes, and having a box for each game. And because I have a bunch of Amazon boxes laying around, so I'm going to box up each game as a little box game, so then I can carry it around more easily. But
order.
I must bring order. Yeah, I am the organizer, man. So, but
well, I've done my own kind. I'm doing my own kind of order. I'm going to have one bag for clothes.
Yep.
And one bag for game stuff. One bag for food. That's it.
Look, Joe is with it, man. I'm going to have a billion things. So it's a good thing I'm driving and have the car first. So I'll get to load my stuff in. Joe, you have to carry yours in your lap.
Okay. Well, or I may have to ride on the hood, right?
That's another option.
Driving an hour at 7:00 in the morning would be rough.
And Michigan's going to be chilly, but you're used to it. You've done it. So you're tough. So shall we transition into the main topic?
Sounds good.
Okay, we're talking about the elusive game balance issue. We brought balance in a couple of times, balance between the known and the unknown. We talked about balancing encounters, which is going to come back up a little bit today, I believe. But first, the big idea, and I searched the internet, and everybody's got an opinion on what balance is, and I just found one that I just kind of liked. It just sounded good. It's probably the best thing about the articles. I use the article later on too. It says game balance is a state of equilibrium between two or more elements of a game. Most of the time we talk about game balance, we're talking about the mechanics, but I like the way that was phrased.
Yeah, I like it.
So the idea, people are always talking about, character abilities versus another character's abilities, or monster abilities versus character abilities. I think another article I almost posted where this guy listed like 20 different things with balance. I was like, that's a little too specific for me. And, but I did like some of his ideas, like narrative control, story power for a character versus story power for another character. That's kind of interesting. But the first idea was, when we got talking about game balance, is it really an illusion? Right. That is there really such? I've said that myself. It's a myth. I've also been the other way. This is weird. When 3.0 first come out, I thought it was the most perfectly balanced game of D&D ever. My first look was, this is perfection. And after playing it for how many years, it wasn't, but it was still good, a good game. And And then 4E came out, and we had a friend who claimed sang its praises and was like, it's the most balanced game ever. And
the math just works.
The math just works, which it might, but okay. And then 13th Age is pretty balanced. And I think we've talked about how much we love that game, but it has some issues. And there's these, we'll have these links on there, I think in the show notes. There's an article there that's kind of pro, that game balance is important, and one that is con, says game balance is not important, and there's one that's kind of neutral. So I thought we'd start with the one that was pro. It's on Mythcreants, and they talked about it, and they labeled kind of 4 things that they considered why you needed balance. That since RPGs are still a game, you needed balance. Underpowered PCs are not fun, so you need balance. Mechanics create the world, and power determines the story. So what was your first overall thoughts on that article about those 4 things, particularly why you need balance in the game?
Well, I read the first article. And I thought he's stupid.
Really? Just completely stupid.
Okay. So the short sword comment. Okay. Let me go over it right quick.
Sure.
Individual elements of a game should have a level of power appropriate to their role. That means that if a short sword does less damage than a long sword, the short sword needs to have some other quality going for it, or else why would anyone use short swords? The 2 weapons must be balanced. I disagree.
I do too.
Because what about a dagger? What about a dart? What about a thumbnail? Or a long sword is probably the most optimal weapon you can use in one-on-one combat.
Yes.
Probably. Because ease of use, lightness, speed, all of that stuff. Easy to learn. Not easy to master, but easy to learn.
Yeah.
Short swords are somewhat similar, but they're shorter, so your reach is shorter. So you have to come within the guard of someone else you're fighting. Now, if you're both using equal length weapons, or they're using a shorter weapon than you, or no weapon, it's no big deal. But if they've got better reach than you,
you're in trouble.
You could be.
You better be superior. And then there's the dagger. Then there's a mail glove. I mean, you're coming to the end where like you're shortening your range. It's like there's a reason in boxing that they talk about reach. It's if you see it, I don't know if you ever watch much boxing in your life, but if you watch it before the big match, they'll height, weight, this, that. Then the reach will be one of the statistics. There's like 6 of them. They're one of the top 6 stats they talk about. If a dude has a big reach advantage, I think we mentioned when Conor McGregor played around with the mountain one time, there was a video where he was, play fighting with the mountain, and he was like, even as good a trained fighter as Conor McGregor is in MMA, you could tell he was terribly concerned about reach. Because the mountain, the actor that played the mountain, he's 6'8", 6'9", maybe bigger. There's like 6'10", I think. He's the shortest guy in his family. He's got 2 brothers that are taller. And I was like, that dude, you can't let that dude get a hold of you. I don't care. Good, you can't. He will crush you. Just ask the Viper.
He doesn't have to do much to get you either.
No, he doesn't. You just got to get. And he was like, he'd do bat, 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 but he would rarely hit him because he just couldn't afford to be within his reach. So I think you make a good point there. And there's a danger there because then it becomes white box. Oh, so if they're going to balance it, my first inclination is balance is make them all do the same damage.
Right.
Which 13th Age kind of does something like that. But it does group weapons of different types, and it's more in the character in 13th Age than it is the weapon.
Right, but you get multiple dice. Yeah, you get multiple dice, and depending on your level. But if you're using a smaller weapon, the die is smaller.
Right.
Than the bigger weapon.
They make some comments that if you really want to, you can let it do whatever. If you want to be because Joe, you've talked about the idea. You've always wanted to be a dagger wielding fighter, 2 dagger wielding fighter. What do you think of that? What if you said, okay, we're going to have these categories, same reach weapons, roughly long, medium, short. They're going to do these types of damage. I think 13th Age calls them martial and something else weapons. I don't know. I'm not sure they do. I'm not sure they do. It's more of the class though. If a fighter wields something, they're deadlier. Would you like a game that abstracted like that, or do you want to have a weapons table?
Well, if there's a weapons table, it probably shouldn't be very big because the differences between them aren't that great. But
at least from our viewpoint, our unskilled viewpoint,
right.
they're not that great. And who wants it? I don't want that level of detail in my RPG. Not really. That's not necessary.
Right.
I think 13th Age gets that part right.
Yeah. Big, medium, small is probably all you need.
Yeah. And you scale it that way, and the rest of it's flavor. So
Yeah.
we're kind of halfway there.
Yeah.
A different comment that he made that just kind of threw me off. He mentioned under his RPG is still a game is why you should have balance. Right at the beginning, most role-playing games still have an element of competition in the form of combat. Some of these, like Dungeons and Dragons or Iron Kingdoms, are designed to be played on a board. What?
Yeah.
I mean, look, I get it. 3rd and 4th edition especially was mini-centric. And even early on in our life, we loved the minis. But 3rd edition had a little chessboard mentality to it, and I think 4th exacerbated it. But to say that it was fully designed like that every edition, no way. D&D is not designed to be a full-on board game, not even close. You don't need a board. Just because you have I guess he's calling any map you use a board. That's probably his reasoning. He doesn't explain it very well. So,
right. And he makes some sweeping comments that I think are inaccurate, like PCs are likely to spend huge chunks of session in combat, and poor balance will remove all fun from the experience. And I'm like, well, depends. All fun?
Right.
I mean, that's hugely subjective. And that's the thing about this topic is balance is a perception, and it is highly, highly subjective.
Yeah.
What exactly is balanced? Is every weapon having the same damage? Balanced is a weapon, different weapon damage, but qualities that even them out somehow. And how are they evened out? I mean, it's subjective.
Well, and for example, I can give him a counter example right off the bat. Remember when I played my little Nodwick dude at the tournament? I played a character that was a commoner, and I won a tournament, an arena to the death tournament. Well, it had a different objective. It was capture this widget and hang on to it for 10 rounds. But I won that being clearly the weakest character in the arena. I mean, any character could have kicked my face in. I mean, the druid, the wizard, maybe not in melee, but it wouldn't have been that hard. He probably would have won if he didn't cast a spell. I probably would win, probably. But any of the fighters, get out of here. They take me out in a half a second.
Right.
And I was one level higher than everybody. So I mean, it's not combat was not my deal there. It was all craftiness.
And you didn't do any.
No.
He didn't do any. You hid.
Yeah. I did. That was my strategy. Get a potion of invisibility and hide.
Yeah.
And run around there. That's how I won. But I mean, and I enjoyed the crap out of it because nobody knew I was playing a commoner. You guys were just remember, what were you playing? What kind of character class were you? And you guys were like, what?
You balanced it out. Kinda through your gameplay. It wasn't a mechanical thing.
Even if it wasn't balanced, who cares?
Yeah.
I mean, it was fun.
Yeah.
And that's interesting. So he also mentioned something. I'm not sure where he said this. I think it's in the same spot. I do kind of want to move on. But it's just a comment he made. Competitive game. And it kind of took me, it was in my mind down a road. So when you say competitive, automatically I think, okay, so it's PC versus GM. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. And that's kind of a long comment, so bear with me, Joe. PCs are constrained by their level. Your 7th level, you can only access 7th level powers in whatever game you're in. And I said, that's not a fair fight. But I said, wait a minute. On the other end, if I'm trying to follow the rules, I might be constrained by CR.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm not, I don't know how that's a competitive game. If I'm playing OSR 2nd edition, or let's say 1st edition, just because you're playing 3rd level characters doesn't mean I'm only going to give you 3rd level monsters to face.
Right.
You may have to overcome them some way. And it's not really competitive. It's because at any time I can put a monster in and say, well, you were supposed to run.
Right.
And if I want to, I can put a monster in that looks innocuous, that seems like, oh, he's not that tough looking, and he kicks your face in.
Right.
So I don't know how much that makes any sense at all. And of course, then that connects back to our least favorite thing, which is CR and appropriate encounter levels.
Right. It might be he's talking about between characters, but not necessarily in a PvP fashion.
Yeah.
It might be competitive just from the point of view of everybody's at the table trying to get screen time, which I've been thinking is kind of overrated.
It can be. I think it has to be pretty extreme. for someone to notice the screen time differential. I've never had anybody even say that ever at my table.
Right.
I mean, I hear people talk about it, but I've never, I mean, outside of the game and on podcasts, but I've never seen anybody complain about it. Doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Could be a thing. Could just be that we don't worry about it too much.
Right.
What about his second one? Underpowered PCs are not fun.
Well, that's what we were just talking about with your underpowered PC. It was fun.
Yeah. Counter. What do you
subjective? He's just talking about subjective stuff. His opinion.
What about gimping your own character? So you're playing a what's that summoner from Pathfinder? Not the Synth summoner, but the other one, Master Summoner. I'm going to summon a lesser powered creature because I would just completely dominate combat. What do you think of
I've actually thought about playing a character that was powerful, but did underpowered things to make everybody else feel better, until he needed to step up.
Right.
For sure. I mean, it would be like, dude, are you going to do something or not? I suppose.
And like,
yeah, and that could be fun for a session or two, but it would get old.
Well, you'd hate always. Well, I could just destroy this thing. Why don't I just kill it? I'll just cast Meteor Swarm. It's over. Game over, man. Game over.
I mean, it's a cool trope. And there's a lot of Asian martial arts movies where you'll have the master, especially like a drunken master type trope, and he'll just be sitting on the sidelines drinking while his apprentice is getting his butt kicked. And then he finally comes in and says, "You're doing this all wrong," and then destroys the enemy. And you're like, well, why didn't you just do that? Well, because he's training or whatever. But it would be a fun thing to do for a session or two. But I don't think you could do that for very long.
Yeah, that is a poor statement when you think about his quality. That the underpowered PCs are not fun. That's very subjective.
Very.
What about this one? This one, I don't know. Mechanics create the world. Imbalance distorts rules, which distorts the story. His example was automatic weapons and Call of Cthulhu. And this is an area I know nothing about.
Yeah,
automatic weapons and Call of Cthulhu can mow down these Cthulhuid beasts. Many in the Cthulhu mythos. And I could say, well, yeah, that sounds like a problem. I mean, if you want to evoke, because you're not in Call of Cthulhu, it's not an adventure game.
Mm-mm.
You're not there to fight the monster straight up, though there is a Delta Green version of that where you kind of do. And but if you have automatic weapons and they just mow down the creatures of the mythos, it's not really evoking the intention of the game. And that could be a fault, an imbalance of source. It sounds like just like an error in judgment. But what do you think?
It's possible. I've read a lot of Cthulhu. My wife and I we've read a lot together, and the thing is, in none of those stories does anybody confront any of those monsters with any kind of firepower. So from a lore point of view, you don't really know for sure whether or not they would be very effective. Some of them they would. It depends on what kind of creature you're talking about. If you're talking about like Cthulhu or that level of beast, probably not, because they're massive and all that. They're very powerful. Maybe they just look at your guns and they don't even work. Who knows?
Yeah, but in the 1920s, which is the original setting, I think it's 20s, Call of Cthulhu,
like a Tommy
30s.
gun.
Yeah, well, who has Tommy guns? I mean, are you playing Al Capone all the time?
Right.
I mean, and maybe, I don't know, I think I read somewhere you could access them easier back then.
Yeah, when they first came out, anybody could, if you had the money, you could get one.
I stand corrected.
Yeah. That's why.
What about
gangsters had them?
Oh, geez, last month I had a great example. Oh, shoot, it was more connected to D&D as well. What about this? Here's a mechanics affecting the story. In D&D, especially the 3rd edition, but in a lot of rules, camping and turtling up after a tough encounter every time was often the best move in an adventure. If there was no constraints for you to hurry through anything, it's better off for your characters to find a hole, hide in it, and literally wallow in the 15-minute workday. What do you think of that? Is that a mechanics screw in of a world? You do that in a world where it's supposed to be about high adventure and danger and going into dark places and dealing with threats, and you never see that in movies or novels. You rarely see the hero. Well, every fight they don't just turtle up.
No, that's how players work.
Work the mechanic, work the system, which affects the story part of the world, because then it seems weird that you're hiding all the time.
Yeah, well, that's okay. There's two things with that. One, it could be up to the DM to prod them with random encounters, which a lot of people kind of poo-poo.
All right.
But you could also have another constraint that's kind of like 13th Age. You know, yeah, you can rest, but you're not going to get all your stuff back,
right?
Until some other milestone happens, like they like to do. So it's up to the DM,
which is artificial, but I mean, you can do it. But having said that, I think that's if you could fix that in your game before it goes out, if you can notice that, which I think is hard as a designer, and I've never designed anything, it'd be very tough to realize players might do. How can you know what everything players are going to do?
Right.
And how you make a rule, it comes along, you're like, well, when should characters get their powers back? How about after they rest? Okay, that sounds good. 24-hour or 8-hour rest, you get your powers back. You don't start thinking about, oh, what do they do after they cast their big spell? The wizard's going to want his one fireball back, so they're going to sleep. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's true. But I think as a DM, that's an easy quote unquote fix. I agree with you.
And honestly, I don't think designers need to consider all those things.
They can't.
No,
they literally can't.
Yeah. So if you're going to say this is poor design, I would say no. It's just you're going to pick and choose. It's a cost benefit analysis. How long do you want to spend making the game, and then perhaps revising it in new editions? Of course, some companies have made a lot of money doing that, but it'd be better just to have a lighter set and let people's gameplay at the table deal with those issues. If they at the table find that enjoyable, then they do that.
Our second article talks about that a little bit. So what about this? I've never thought of this, because you can. I've also used the argument, good for the goose, good for the gander.
Mm-hmm.
If I got a player party that's turtling up all the time, how about you have the evil wizard who hits them with his big spell? Okay, I've got what's a really good I can only think of Horde Wilting 8th level spell. He's got one of them.
That's your go-to.
It is my go-to. I roll in, boom, Horde Wilting, and then I retreat and leave.
Yeah, you might only kill one person.
Yeah, I retreat, and then the next morning, Horde Wilting, teleport Horde. How you like that?
Scry teleport Horde Wilting.
It's fun, ain't it? Isn't this fun playing Turtle Up? Yeah, true. Good point. And then this last one, we got to get one of the other one too. Power determines the story. Maximized PCs have more narrative control. They affect roles more readily in combat and so on and so forth. Therefore, they control the narrative. What do you think of that?
They can.
I think they can. I think for the most part they do.
Yeah.
Though some people, go ahead. Some folks will play powered up characters and they don't want the spotlight.
Right. They just want to do well.
Yeah. I'm in combat. I didn't get touched. That's cool. And then let's go on. But you're right. I think that's true. But I'm not sure how much that matters. So
and then there's different areas. Combat isn't the only place someone can be powerful in.
Right.
He might talk about that here, or maybe in another article where
diplomacy. His diplomacy example.
Right. So you could be like diplomatizer, and just everywhere you go, you control. Now that, I think that was an actual design flaw in 3rd edition and Pathfinder too, where Pathfinder as well, where you can have a gigantic bonus to your diplomacy without a whole lot of effort on your part as a player designing your character. And you could walk into town and, you just get everything.
Go to the king. You want to abdicate the throne to me, don't you? I mean, I got plus 48 to my roll. And that's where I think common sense, and that's right. And this leads to our next article. Common sense. That's a balance issue when, like, by your mechanics that you've written down, it's hard for me to believe that in 3.5 they wrote those rules and they didn't go, bards could be stupid with this.
Right.
So could paladins, so could sorcerers. So yeah, I don't know.
You turn a hostile situation into they'll give you the keys to the kingdom.
which is, as a GM, like, yeah, no, I don't care if you hit a 90. No way. Eighth. I don't care if you're 20th level bard. Unless you're using magic, King's not handing over the keys of the kingdom.
No.
So his final claim is that balance affects every aspect of an RPG. Okay, but so what?
Yeah.
I mean, so what? I'm not sure I'm pro balance. I'm feeling I'm not, but I think his article, I thought it was kind of good in the sense that it was clear with some examples. But you're right. Some of his claims are a little more
very subjective.
Fuzzy.
Yeah,
Subjective.
very subjective.
Yeah.
So I think, and we can probably talk. This is probably TLDR.
Mm-hmm. What does that mean? I've seen.
Can't remember the actual, but it's basically crypt notes. It's like we're going to tell you the point of the thing at the beginning, and if you don't want to read it, you don't have to. But here's the point. Here's the point.
Yeah.
I think that you shouldn't probably be too overly obsessed as a game designer in designing balance into your system. Some, sure, but not. Don't be obsessed.
Yeah.
And at the table, the group will find whatever balance they like or no balance. It's up to them.
Right. It's up to them. Yeah. Which this goes to that second article. It's called the Emergence Campaign web blog. I thought it was pretty abstract, though. I thought it was, I'm going to go good now. They compared game balance they use law, like our actual law in our society, how there's so many books, everything is codified, and a perfectly balanced system would be super rigid. There'd be a rule for every situation and a situation for every rule. So I use as my examples D&D 3.5, super codified, or Pathfinder super codified. And these rigid systems don't allow much for creativity. And I think he makes a good point with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like this article. This is the
illusion of game balance on the emergence of his website's called Emergence Campaign Weblog. I'm assuming
this is the con instead of the neutral.
Yeah, this is the con. I'm gonna go to that. Sorry, I didn't mean to jump that because the neutral. I don't have much to say in the neutral article. I'm a little disappointed with that one. But anyway, I thought the comparison to the law is pretty good. And 3.5 kind of popped up, and at the far end with all the splat books, man, I don't even know how you keep track of that. But with all the books at your table, 400,000 books, there's a rule for every situation. You hardly ever found a situation you couldn't find a rule for. In fact, I recall one time saying, I don't think they have a rule for that. And I think it was Greg T. He said, yeah, it's on this page. And he found it like that. You know, he's a rules master. He knows his stuff. And so I was like, oh, crap. Okay. But yeah. And he made a comment, too, that in games like that are a little more rules heavy, and this is where he's starting to get away from the balance issue. He said players can cause imbalance. It's their skill.
Yeah.
We've seen that, dude. And Elysium,
yeah.
Lewis had some sweet characters that we're all just like, what? And you made some awesome ones. Philip made some. We got several folks who made some really good characters. Lewis, I thought, kind of won the quote unquote battle with his archer and some of his builds. And we're just like, what the heck? And he said a counter to that, and this is interesting, he said, was hidden information and random factors, though that's not a great defense against a rules guy, because he'll find all the hidden details. He might run the statistics to go, if I choose a 2-weapon fighter, follow this tree path, guess what? You can't beat that in damage. It's the optimal build.
Right.
And so yeah, that's pretty interesting. He goes, adding a team focus and handicapping can make the play more interesting, but I've always found that hard because either it's, I mean, you can't tell one player, look, I'm going to handicap you because Joe Butch is too good. So give me your Vorpal, take away these 3 feats. You're just too good. Right. And I could do it, but you'd be like, screw you, Randy, I'm not playing your game because it's dumb. Or you could say, Joe, do you have to always do that? And then, you know, you might design a character. Your character might be like you said before, I'm not going to try to dominate combat. But after a while, you'd be like, why is my powerhouse not powerhousing?
Right.
It would get old after a while for you and for everybody else to be like, Joe, we need a little butchery here.
Literally.
Yes. Unsheath that Vorpal, son.
Yeah.
And one of his conclusions was basically he thought that a judge was necessary.
Right.
He goes, and this is kind of a quote, it's going to be his or her job to manage the hidden information, correct imbalances, allow, if they're fun, loopholes, and compensate for the differences in skill and luck between the player. One of the great benefits of using a judge in a game system is that a good judge will allow the players to exercise their creativity. As soon as you start allowing that kind of thing at all, though, you've made the jump to a role-playing game, in his opinion. And so he thinks you have to have a judge, a DM has to have his hands in there, massaging the rules, affecting things, creating situations where the character that doesn't have the greatest fighting ability still gets to shine. Maybe he's by himself, he gets to fight a really low level foe and look really cool. And I agree that sometimes you just have to do that. And I definitely thought his article was much more compelling as I've thought about it, as I noodle over it through the night in your comments. I do think it's more compelling than the other one.
Yeah. And I think I like the evil plan banjo one as well, because he's kind of on the same tip, except a little.
He's vague, super vague, dude.
Yeah. It's a short. I mean, it's a short little thing.
It's a short comment. Here. Yeah, that maybe just because he's like, look, just do it. Yeah. Go ahead. Tell me what you think of that one.
Where was it that I saw?
An evil plan and a banjo. It's on his blog spot. The first question of game balance.
Yeah.
He got one of Joe's favorites, game balance. Does it even matter? Especially if no one uses it. That was good. Yeah. A certain ability is like, for example, monks in 3.0 had a great saves. It didn't matter. Nobody at my table played monks.
Yeah. Yeah. So
they had crazy saves +2 at the beginning. So everything.
Yeah, I think the basic thing is that it's very subjective. Mm-hmm. That's why the DM is important. I know there's some kind of weird. There may have always been there, or maybe early on, but there's a lot of these solo play games where there's no DM, or games where there's no DM. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I kind of get what they're saying, because some people don't want somebody to tell them what to do, essentially, is why they don't want a DM.
Somebody, huh? Who do I know that doesn't like to be told what to do? I'm thinking about Joseph, dude. Joe, eat that awesome breakfast. No, I will not eat that awesome breakfast.
I will eat these rotten cornflakes.
I won't eat it all because
eat it all.
You're starving. I don't care. You told me to eat it.
So yeah, but because of this chimera, as the other guy put it, of balance, you need someone as an arbiter. He doesn't necessarily need to be for or against you as a group or individual players. He just needs to smooth things out, keep the game running well, and help everyone have a good time. He doesn't have to. He doesn't have to give you a good time. He doesn't have to be the entertainer.
Well, and that's the thing. It's everybody's job to entertain, dude. At the table, you have fun because you get to do the things you want to do. And I think the things that we forget as players, and I don't know if it's a gamer social problems or not. You should play to let other people. You should try to facilitate other people's fun at the table.
Yeah.
DM's, that's not his only job. He's not the only one with that job. If you can let Debbie's cleric, look under every nook and cranny on one scene and support that. Yeah, I think you should look at that. That'll help her have fun. Doesn't mean you don't say, hey, Deb, we need to speed things up. This is room number 3 where you're trying to look behind every single thing. We got other things to do. But one time or 2 times in the game, say, yeah, I think you should. Good job.
Yeah.
If you had looked everywhere, we wouldn't have found that, And I think you want to facilitate, because my wife loves looking under every little nook and cranny. So.
Right. Yeah. I know that someone put a post up on Facebook and said, as part of the comment, that it's the DM's job to entertain.
Oh, please.
Yeah. So my response was putting up a GIF of Gladiator.
Mm-hmm.
When he's in the arena saying, "Are you not entertained?" Yeah. Because screw that.
Dude, didn't I just spend? Well, if it's me, didn't I spend like 19 hours last week preparing this one adventure, and we're only going to get through a 10th of it. But I'm totally prepared and ready to go and have you over at my house. And isn't that enough that I'm trying to make it fun for you? Yeah. It doesn't mean I ain't gotta put on a show. Did you hear? Was it Tinkar? His had a podcast last week. I don't know the guy. It was another Eric, but he had this is a real story. And I'm sorry, I can't remember the name. It's Eric F. I don't remember his last name. had a person in his group, in his home group, because he had a blog. He goes, your blog content is kind of weak and it's not OSR enough. So I'm leaving the group to go find another group that's more DM who's more is OSR enough.
Well,
like,
the other thing was it was taking away time. You know, you should focus on DMing, not blogging.
Right. And it's like, okay, go ahead and do you, bud. That sounds like a bye. See ya. Wouldn't want to be.
Bye, Felicia. As the saying goes.
Yeah, it's crybaby stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So, where are we coming down? Pro con. I think we're kind of con balance, but more like a neutral thing, right? I'm feeling
I think more neutral is find your balance at your table. The DM is the important key element of that, because we players can be hard to wrangle and want everything for ourselves. So the DM is important for that. And
I found this on I think it's Ian World. There's a quote here. I don't think it's from any one of these. I wanted to leave off of this. Says your job isn't to make the most balanced game possible. And that's talking to the designer. Your job is to make the most fun games possible. Fun differs from group to group, but I've never met a player that looked at an ability and said, wow, look at how balanced these numbers are. I seriously want to take this ability so I can deal exactly the same amount of damage as my buddies.
Yeah.
And, it was a guy some guy was talking about how the game he made. I think it was called Wonderlust. I should have wrote the guy's name down. And his group played it and they got bored with it because it was perfectly balanced. And he talked to some game designer who said that to him.
Yeah.
He goes, and I think he's right. Make a fun game. And you know what? Sometimes I think I got so caught up on balance, and I can get myself, not so much these days, caught up on balance, but I used to where I think I looked down on the game we were having fun with, 3rd edition. You know, I did that a lot, sometimes in 2nd, but more in 3rd. I was our Pathfinder, more inclined to get, that's broken. Rather than, you know what? We still had a hell of a time.
Yeah.
So what if Lewis's Archer was destroying everything? Butch was holding his own. Anything came up close, got the loppage. So it's like, yeah, I think sometimes you get I think it's too much to get upset about. I would say balance, worry about balance, maybe 20%, 30%, and just having fun, 70, 80%, and you'll be fine. Yeah. So, but speaking about the idea of balance, between PCs, I do maintain that I want the attractiveness of character classes or whatever you can play. I would ideally like for all classes to be attractive to some person. Doesn't mean you may not have a group of 4 players who are not inclined to play a bard or a paladin, but they love the crap out of rogues and wizards. And just because they're cooler. But mechanically, it'd be nice if every class had something they could do that to the right person, that would be super attractive to play in a game.
Right. And sometimes you don't have that, or they have a really big flaw, like monks had in 1st edition. In my opinion, I know I've heard people say that they were super great, and I'm like, well, okay, only if you don't use all the rules. So
that's what I thought, dude.
If you use like the weapons versus armor table, monks blow, because open fist against any kind of type of armor more than leather, you start getting serious penalties to hit.
Yeah, and what do they do? Like a D4 damage?
Well, I mean, they get better damage as they go along.
That took it wasn't.
It took a while.
They weren't keeping up with the fighter. And they were really meant to be, even in 3rd edition, remember there was a problem that monks were meant to be meleeist and they were pretty soft. I mean, they could be hit and annihilated. So, yeah, but you could do some monkey stuff that was pretty good.
If you could somehow monkey stuff, if you could get high level, you might end up with higher hit points because you always got hit dice.
Yes, true.
High level monks, 16th level monk had 16 hit dice.
The quivering palm. But that's kind of like that's an extreme version of the wizard. In 1st edition, wait for it. He's 5th level fireballs online. With the monk, wait for it. Keep waiting, do some cool stuff, keep waiting. 17th level, quivering palm.
Then guess what? Everybody's saves are really low.
Yeah.
Did you make a save? Of course he made a save.
2 or higher? I think so. I rolled a 3. Congratulations, monk's dead. Yeah. So I think worrying about that balance is tricky because truth is, I think there's just some, even when I talk about classes that would be attractive to somebody, I'm not sure we have all those players. We don't have many budding thespians at our table.
No.
So they're not going to be, if your power is, your cool abilities are in role play, you can manipulate people doing this and that. That might be okay, but not a lot of our players are going to be attracted to that. Even if as a GM, I'm like that. I mean, I probably would, because I like the talkie, but honestly, I prefer the talkie, not using mechanics on that.
Right.
Yeah. And speaking of comparing players, what about before I'm kind of shifting a little bit, but when it I know I'm bad shifting. So monsters, we talked about this before. We had Glenn on from Radio Grognard, and we talked about character encounter balance. Monsters is there a balance spot for monsters versus PCs? And my thought is right. So my point is is there no implied sweet spot where players should be expected to win 50% of the time or 80% of the time? Or
well, I mean, sometimes I think the game seems to be designed that way depending on what edition you're using.
It sure does.
But I think and this is opinion, so some people think that that's fine because they want to be playing the hero that wins, not the person that might become a hero that might win. They want to be the hero that wins. So they're okay with having softer monsters. Is what it works out to be.
Yes.
But in a more earlier OSR type mentality, there is no balance between the PCs and the monsters. Nothing implied.
And there's no guide to help you.
No.
I mean, rarely, but yeah.
I mean, dragons are powerful.
Yeah.
If you go up against a dragon and you're not a high level, or well, depending on the edition, I guess, because dragons in first edition really had low hit points for what they were supposed to be.
They sucked, I thought.
But they also did their breath weapon hit points and breath weapon damage,
which could be brutal early. If you don't get to him if he gets it off before you damage him, that's a lot of hit points you're taking. Yeah, that's tough.
So no, there shouldn't be in a kind of an OSR game, in more of a soft game, I guess, maybe so.
Picking up on that one guy's comment, what about story stuff? Do you need to worry about players? I don't know. I'm not sure if you should even worry about players affecting the story. I think strong players, I'll even use the negative term, pushy players that are highly, motivated and quote unquote aggressive in a good way. Even they will affect assertive. That's the word I'm looking for. They will affect the narrative more because they're going to open their mouth more.
It depends on what kind of game you're trying to elicit. If you are a DM that wants to write the story that the players come along for, then you probably don't want really assertive players that might change the story. But But if you have story elements that you might or might not use that you've prepared, and you want to do a more old school or loose system where the story emerges from play at the table, then that's not really a concern. Whether or not you have players that take narrative control or not, or are assertive, because the story happens at the table, so that's what happens.
What about the idea that, back to that one guy's article at Mythbrians, power creates a story, so a powerful character, a person that builds a great character by default is going to be the guy that drives the narrative.
You could.
I think it could.
Powerful beings are the ones, the movers and shakers. I mean, I know in Lord of the Rings, the hobbits were the focus of the story,
right?
And they were the least powerful of the races used.
Yes,
but their story, compared, let's say, to Sauron made that story happen.
Yes,
by being so powerful that he made the one ring that affected everything and everything else needed to happen.
They just used their greatest power was to be unnoticed.
Yeah,
that was what won them, and their resistance to the ring. So they were able to their goodness. Yeah, so they overcome Sauron by doing that. I think I agree with that. Do you think you need to worry about balance between the three different, what do they call it, pillars of the game they've been using a lot in the recent games, the recent D&D about exploration, combat, and RP? What do you think of that? When you're a player, combat can get old, right?
It can, but
and RP can get old. I know you think that.
So I think again, it's subjective. Table, group, DM, all that stuff makes it subjective. So then you don't have to balance it every session or every moment that you're playing. You have a session that might be more combat heavy. You might have a session that's more RP heavy. You might have a session that's more exploration heavy. You might have one that has a little bit of all.
Yeah, and I don't think I don't want to prescribe. I wouldn't want to prescribe. Here's how you look. You're going to have, when you build an adventure in our system, you must have 30% RP. So always have this, and always have 35% for combat, and the rest can be exploration. So I don't. I hate the idea of the rules prescribing that. I think just describing those three things as those are the things that people are kind of into. So maybe try to make your games about this stuff sometimes and mix it up, which I think the 5e Dungeon Master Guides gives pretty good advice on that, actually. So, yeah.
That's what I hear.
And so along with this balance thing, we use this term broken, right? Go ahead.
Another subjective term.
Agreed. That game is broken. That mechanic is broken. During the pre-WotC D&D era, which Jason at RPG's Nerd Variety Cast had a big, him and Barry had a big discussion on that pre-WotC and post-WotC. We rarely use the term broken.
Right.
I would say that's too powerful. That was pretty common. That would come out of my mouth quite a bit. Joe wants to play the new Dragon Magazine character class. I'm like, no way, dude. It's too powerful. The Duelist, forget it. He's too good. Which he was, but
he probably was,
yeah. But I think other than that, so broken is too subjective to give one person's broken. I mean, you might have a game where the duelist would be ridiculously powerful, like in my Greyhawk game. Another game, like he might be a punk, because you might have 7. What do they call them? Deathmasters. Deathmaster. Oh yeah, dude, something like that, or maybe you'd have the Unearthed Arcana Barbarian who was allowed to have magic at first level, and he was ridiculous. So, house rule stuff, and he'd be fine. Or maybe you're running Rifts where just wait till the next supplement. It's going to be 5 things more powerful than the last.
Right.
So, I mean, if you're into, I think that broken is way too subjective, and I'm loath to use it, but I will sometimes. But really, I just mean, I think this ability is, I think it's going to be too useful sometimes. I think it's going to be like way too useful, and the win button every time. You got to watch that. But I think that rarely happens, that it's the win button every time.
It is.
Yeah.
And the assessment that it's broken might be correct at your table or from your point of view, and other people were like, no, it's no big deal.
Yeah. And I found that, remember the psionicist, the psionic, was it psionicist? Scion and the wizard in 3.5 and 3.0. 3.5 especially.
3.5.
Oh, that was a gigantic, I guess the 3.0 Scion was kind of a weak sorcerer. But the 3.5, everybody would say, but wizards get free scaling. But Scions have 900 power points, and they can make all their powers 9th level, which is our side of the debate. And boy, people, that was a big thing about balance. That was huge. And it's just perspective. At your table, maybe the Scion is fine. At my table, he seemed pretty dang optimal as a class. He had a few powers at high level that could not match. His powers could not match the few spells that high level wizards had. But basically, from 1 to 20, he was kind of the king. He was up there with the cleric and the druid and the wizard. So,
sure,
yeah, maybe better, really. So then, if you've got nothing else to say about the game, I kind of want to switch this gear just a little bit in the last topic. Talk about balancing with your life, and this can be a problem that you and I have when we do this podcast. We're trying to get YouTube going. We like to talk about D&D. We buy D&D stuff, collect minis, we paint them, play D&D. When you got other responsibilities in life, sometimes you got to kind of bring, finding that personal balance. And I think it's just giving time to other people. And I think it's good that you have other hobbies. I like to bicycle. You like to listen to sweet writing article. Was it Brandon Sanderson gave you that
Right.
writing thing? And you have more, I think, more varied interests than I do. But you're kind of a computer guy. You like to get into computer stuff.
Computers. I've gotten into the non crazy end of survival or preparedness. Just being
Prepping.
ready, but not
Nothing wrong with that.
not the crazy people who have 3 years of food stored in their bunker underground with 50,000 rounds of ammunition and a whole arsenal of weapons. No,
but in the end,
just
you know
being
what?
prepared.
Yeah, I don't.
Boy
I
Scout
think,
level prepared.
yeah, I would say Boy Scout level's fine, but I mean, it's okay if you feel that way. That's cool. It's just not my cup of tea. But I think it's important you have that time. So like me and Joe are doing this morning, an early morning podcast, so we can spend some time with our wives before we're gone for 4 days. There's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
And in fact, that's a good thing. Have time for faith, have time to fellowship, have time to do other hobbies. Because Lord knows, look at this, we can obsess on this RPG thing. We spent 45 minutes talking about balance. So
we don't overanalyze anything.
Never. That's a good point. All right. Have we balanced balance out?
I think we have. We've solved it.
We've solved it. So there you go. If you have issues with balance, listen to this podcast or watch it on YouTube. Cabin Con. Oh crap. Did that tell you it's less than 24 hours away?
Less than.
Oh, that is so awesome. So balance at Cabin Con. Did we worry about it? Did we achieve it? Did it matter? What do you think?
Lots of worry. I think we've had lots of worry. Yeah.
Mainly me, guilty as charged, especially when Elysium was the main thing. I think Philip had a lot of worries about balance.
I didn't care.
Right. Yeah.
Pretty
you
much.
were like, early on, Joe was just like, build 6-level character. What rules should we use? Whatever. I'm like, okay, how about just the core? How about just the publish rules? Okay. How about not this? Why? Just do whatever. Because it was pretty, I don't want to call it a throwaway campaign, but it was a kitchen sink campaign. Anything went as long as it was within the rules of Pathfinder, which I think is fine. So the DM has at least know what they can expect, but that didn't turn out to be true either.
Right.
You don't know what's coming. Again, our boy Lewis, see him at Cabin Con, babe. We love you. But dang, he would bring some alchemist, barbarian, halfling combo. That was ridiculous. It was crazy. So impressive. But like, man. And he didn't use a computer, he said. He literally just used the books. So Lewis, 900 books in front of him, figuring it all out. That's pretty impressive.
I must have took a lot of time.
That's
no
all
thanks.
I can say. He said no, so he might be.
Yeah, okay.
I know it's hard to believe, man, but who knows? Yeah. So in the end, I think we're saying it doesn't matter. There was some issues we had. So we talked about before, where remember when some people would give some magic items out too early that threw things out of whack, or would do some crazy stuff that, like, I don't know, these things don't exist in Elysium. We all agree, yeah. And in the very next adventure, oh look,
there it is.
There it is. It's like, okay. You can. It's. I don't know if it didn't. Those things. I think the first one threw mechanical balance out. The second one just threw story balance out.
Yeah.
So we had a few issues, but I think we took care of that.
One thing it did is it put as far as we're concerned, put Pathfinder through its paces.
It sure did. Oh, dude,
so exposed some issues.
Cranked it. Yep.
We cranked it up to 11.
Yep.
And I still think that you could play it however you want, but you have to know some things are going to happen. What we experienced.
I think you should build the world to match too. Like I said, I've stuck up my Pathfinder books, and I have a feeling that one day, given a chance, I'll revisit Pathfinder and just play it. But if I play Pathfinder, I'm going to play it with all the assumptions in the rule book. I'm going to have the magic item economy. You're going to be able to buy stuff and sell stuff. I'm going to try to find use the rules where I can. I'm probably not going to go use every splat book you want. I'm probably going to do like Player's Handbook, and what was that second one? The APG.
Yeah.
Advanced Players Guide, probably those, and say that's it. No third party crap. I don't, and no weird magic items pulled out of some random book. You're going to have to just deal with these magic items in these books. And if you want to go outside, case by case, and just know that the game is still going to get crazy. Magic's going to be king. Fighters are eventually going to need some help to be able to keep up. So give them their Vorpals at 11th level and just move on. Joe likes that idea.
Yeah, why not?
All right.
Vorpal for you, a Vorpal for you, a Vorpal for everyone.
Dude, okay. So now we're moving on to
Moving
dig
on.
this setting.
Alrighty then.
And you know what I put here? The greatest
Yes,
setting.
I read it.
The greatest setting ever created for Dungeons and Dragons. Inarguable. No one will call in and say that I'm wrong. Joe will not say
I
that
can
I'm
write
wrong.
that down.
You can write it down.
What
Planescape.
happens if you become proven incorrect?
I will ignore it.
Oh.
So,
as you should.
As I should. Planescape is the greatest setting ever created for fantasy gaming. City of Doors, a waystation to access all the planes. Here we go. I wrote this down. I wanted to say it right. Listen up, Clueless, and I'll land you to the chant of the cage and all the BARMY spivs and bloods you may meet out on the plains. That's just a taste of the coolness of Planescape. Open up the planes to actual play, dude. How many years did I say, oh, you go to another plane, you're basically dead? We thought there was heaven, there was hell, everything else was just death, and, well, only heaven was survival.
That's what you did. That may not have been the way it was supposed to be, but that's
correct.
what you did.
But isn't that how did you feel differently, Joe? Really?
Well, I didn't know
when we were 15?
until you
right?
did it. And then
you're like,
then we're like, we're not going there. Every time we go there, we die.
Joe's like, I don't want to go to any plane or travel. And it offered some connective tissue, though, didn't it? It's like, look, you can go on the planes. There is a safe place, quotations, Sigil, the city between the worlds. And first level characters could literally travel there and not just be murdered as soon as they show up.
Right.
Or die from 4,000 degree heat in the plane of elemental fire. I think it made a great base, especially for low levels, I said, and help you survive the planes. I thought the factions were cool. It added some context. It married alignment with philosophy. Mm-hmm. And so these factions in Sigil were very concerned about their beliefs. The Harmonium wanted to bring peace and order to the galaxy. Sounds like the Empire.
At all costs.
At all costs. So, but they had various people in different. There were some super kind paladins. There were very friendly clerics. There was overbearing, what we would call anti-paladins. There were devils in the Harmonium because they were all about order. And I thought, this is great. And the devil and the pit fiend and the paladin would be sitting there talking. Yeah, I think we need to do this because it makes the most sense. It made strange bedfellows, but I mean, philosophy put a new twist on alignment. It realigned alignment. Alignment was played, it was part of it, but lawful was stressed by the Harmonium. So the lawful good paladin and the lawful evil devil would talk about law and order. Don't worry so much about the good, how we get there, right? And the paladin would be like, I know he's up to no good. If I see him doing something bad, I'll get him. And the devil's like, I know he's a goody-goody. If he starts screwing things up, I'll make a plan and I'll get around that. So I thought it added a lot that way. It was very colorful. I think that little phrase it's called the planar Cant. Well, that little phrase I talked about, the clueless, LANN, chant, cage, barmy. You can Google the definition of those words. And there's a website, a couple of them that give the Cant, which is a language that was used. It sparked my imagination like no other setting. And because I know I'm gushing here. And like, I thought I was the king of box sets, right? I bought all these box sets in second edition, and Planescape connected them all.
Right.
You travel from Birthright to Greyhawk, from Greyhawk to the Nine Hells, from the Nine Hells to Dragonlance. And to me, I was like, I can use all this crap. And Planescape made it sense for travel.
Right.
Other little comments, things that were cool. Tieflings and Azamars. I thought they were neat. That's the quote unquote plain touch races. So the Tiefling, everybody knows now, is fairly common. Azamar is common in modern D&D, but in second edition, when Planescape came out, it was not common to play a angelic touched, where somewhere in your ancestry, someone spent some quality time with an angel, or somewhere in history, someone spent quality time with a demon or devil. And then the Blood War. Oh, dude, so awesome. I used to always wonder, why aren't the demons and devils just working together? Because they don't have the same philosophy of evil. They're opposed, and they were actually in an actual millennia-long war, multiple millennia-long war. Right. So it helped the people of good, and I went crazy there. But right. Did you have any pros you personally liked about, or did I hit all the things? I know Planescape wasn't your absolute favorite, but did you have any other pros that you thought was really good about it?
Oh, I think you touched on all the things I thought were good. There's some things I didn't like, which is Well, some of the things that you already said, the factions and the blurring of black and whites into basically all gray. For Sigil itself.
Yeah.
Sigil itself is very gray. You couldn't trust really anybody. But then again, you probably could. It's just difficult because most people you couldn't trust.
Because not only your alignment, but your philosophy of how you approach that alignment absolutely mattered. And Joe's frustrations came from me. I mean, I was like, you had to be careful. You make a deal, you might successfully complete an adventure. It's almost like Ravenloft. You successfully complete an adventure, but you're like, oh, we caused that to happen? Yeah, you're right. Look, you made a deal to help out this little shopkeeper that lived in the hive, and you went to this other plane, you recovered this widget for him, and he paid you well, and everybody in the hive that lived around there, their lives were improved. Oh, but guess what? Each one of those people have essentially, by taking part in, by say you gather some magical seeds that allowed plants a certain type of food to grow in the hive, because the hive is an area in Sigil that's run down. Think of the worst slum, multiply that times 10, and then add another million onto it. It was a horrible place. And so in this one little sub area, this little wizard planted these seeds that you brought back, and it fed everybody. But as it fed them, it also made them more inclined to think like him. And he was secretly a demon or secretly a devil. And now they're inclined to follow law and evil. They're super orderly, but they don't care, cutthroaty. And that kind of stuff was kind of rife, in the game. It was all about, because everybody there is kind of, think everybody wants something. There's nothing for free. Everybody wants something. You give me, I give you.
Everybody has an agenda.
Everybody has an agenda. And that's that can get old after time. And I think Joe definitely was right in that could get a little old.
Right.
What else?
So that's the only real negative. Everything else you said is very evocative, very colorful. It had a lot of good things about it. The only thing was the whole gray stuff, which is fine for a while, but it gets old.
I think now it's a nice place to visit, but I wouldn't want to live there.
Right.
What about the planar Cant? I think for some people, me initially, but I just loved it so much I got into it. It's really hard for some players to grok that, because you have to kind of study it. Because if I did it with you guys, I would come off with some sentence like what I said up there. And I don't know if you understand, you probably understand all what I'm saying there, maybe not, but I think a lot of our listeners would hear that and be like, what did he just say? He said, listen up, Clueless. Now, Clueless is someone who's never been to the plains before, is brand new. So new players who just arrived in Sigil to a portal. I'll LAN you to the chant. I'm about to teach you some secrets, okay, of the cage. The cage is another name for Sigil. And all the Barmy, that's crazy, spivs and bloods, okay? I just blanked on what a spiv is.
Aren't they just talking about adventurers mainly?
Kind of, but bloods are like they're vetted adventurers. A blood is someone that you're like, dude, he's lived out in the plains, he knows what's what, and that you may meet on the plains. So basically it was like, I'm going to tell you about the plains, good and the bad, people to watch out for, and ones that are crazy and keep yourself out of trouble. And they use a slang that I think it got a little bit from some of the words in there sound like, I think someone said it was kind of borrowed from some Cockney sort of language or accent that's in England.
Dialect.
And so dialect, yeah. So I think for some people it's hard to grok, but like if you go to, I should have put the link in there, you can just Google it, the planar Cant, and you will find websites that will give you 5 million words. And I loved it. It was in the book. It was in some supplements. I just thought it was so cool. But I would have some players be like, what'd you used to say?
They had some audio supplements too.
Oh yeah, there was a DVD or
DVD,
a CD, sorry, that came with this introductory box set, which is about super thin, maybe an inch thick, but I've got that, and that is so cool. If you listen to it, talks about each of the planes on the Great Ring, and it was cool, but I think that language could be a little bit of a stretch unless you just love it and you really get into it.
It's a niche within a niche within a niche.
Yeah, agreed. So with that drawback, how would you rank this bad boy?
I would say large. I know you're going 2x.
I'm going 2x.
Yeah.
Even it might be 2x, maybe a
New category.
1.5x, just because I think extra large tall, as I've aged, I've come to see the drawbacks to that shades of gray. But I guess I'm not going to stick with 2x, because if I run it, I'll run it a little different. I'll probably make the planes a little more palatable to folks like you and some other friends, but not crazily. And I'll probably make it 4As, because we tried to start a campaign that involves Sigil, and you and my wife both were kind of like, I hate all these deals we're making. And, you got to play to your players. I don't want them to be, I don't want you to be annoyed by the game, no matter how cool I think it is.
Right.
So, but
there are a lot of people who love that kind of style, that style of deal making and politics and stuff.
Philip, that's Philip's favorite.
Yeah, that's his wheelhouse.
He loves Sigil, and I do too. I think you would say you love the idea. Don't you love the idea? Tell me if I'm wrong. Would you love the idea of a world where Sigil's a possibility? Where it's out there, because it lets that happen. If you got a high level wizard, like, dude, I need to find this out. This is how am I going to find the secret truth of the Demodans? And I live on Greyhawk. I ain't going to find it in Greyhawk. I'm going to Sigil.
Right. And Sigil is the den of scum and villainy.
Kind of. Yeah.
For the multiverse.
Yeah, it is. Well, the beauty of it's the Lady of Pain. I mean, touched on her. There's this figure called the Lady of Pain. She is the ruler of the city, but I'm put that in quotations. And she keeps the gods out. Gods cannot enter Sigil. No one knows much about her. They never defined her statistically, which was perfect. She did not need stats. And there was a book called Pages of Pain that I read that did a little bit of telling about her history, though it didn't give stats. And she is such that she doesn't allow the gods to come in or any of their direct proxies and avatars. And she disdains the idea of being worshipped, because most people think she's got to be godlike level to build a place like this. And she's been known to come out and literally kill people if they tried. There was a group that tried to worship her, and they started a church of the Lady of Pain, and she put a kibosh on that. So, and she's
prejudice.
With prejudice. Yeah. I mean, they talk about her walking down the streets and people's faces just starting to rip, big slices appearing all over them, kind of like some sort of hellish, movie of some horror movie, nobody there, invisible assailants that you can't tell. And she has this mask she wears. I assume it's a mask that's covered in blades and a ring around her head. Very evocative. And I think reading the books, I didn't say this, dude, reading the setting material was so rich, so evocative. I just love the language they use. I love the kind of stories they told, and it reminded me of 13th Age, where they said a lot of people think it's like this, but this may not be the true dark. And they'd use the word the dark of it, which is the secret of it. So the truth of it. But yeah, I think I would still say 2X. I can't let that go. That's definitely my favorite setting.
Right. I agree.
All right, wrap this puppy up. We will be having a little negative material plane segment at the end. But if you'd like to support our show, please help get the word out and check out the website at www.biggestgeekestpodcast.com. Share with your friends. Let us know if there's another way that you would like to listen that we could support better. Also, check us out on YouTube. Boy, Joe here has got that all worked up, so we're going to try to simultaneously put these up as we do them on podcast. Our email is questions@biggestgeekestpodcast.com. Any comments or concerns, you can do that on the Anchor app. You can leave us messages. We would like to encourage you to check out a few of our podcasts that we really love. We're going to kind of stop naming people. Is that the plan, right? We're not going to name them here.
At some point, it's going to get so long, we won't be able to.
Yeah, we got a bunch of them. Like, please look at the show notes to see some of our folks that we always name and love and follow those guys. Not that we don't want to, but kind of get a little weary of listing them out. But it's getting longer. We're adding to it almost every day, it seems like. So anyway, this is Randy.
I'm Joe.
And remember, you can't be big like us, then be geeks like us. All right. Transitioning into the negative material plane.
Yes.
Okay, so a lot of this discussion we're about to have here, a couple of dudes, I think it's called Mike and Randy at the Dicer Screaming podcast, had an episode that said au revoir to the OSR, and they have their reasons for leaving. And they pointed a few of them out. Some of the talk about bad actors in the OSR community and people not feeling welcome, and I'm sure the same old diversity, inclusivity things, but they didn't. I'm not sure if they said that or not, but and they're definitely. I mean, I'm not. It's fine. Whatever they want to do is fine. Then there's some responses to a podcast called "Keep Off the Borderlands." I think you listen to that more consistently than I do, Joe, don't you?
I'm not sure, but I've listened to a few.
And I generally like it, yeah. And he kind of defended the OSR more on why they would leave. And then there were some comments by some folk that called in and kind of said, "Hey, wait a minute." And I think who is the guy? No, it's not Colin. Colin's at Spike Pit. Who's the guy that keep off the borderland? Who is that guy?
I think that's Spencer.
Mm-hmm. And Spencer, I think did he backtrack some or not? Or did he kind of say that he thought he was, I didn't listen to it all, but that's not the point. I heard a few snippets and I got a little put off by a couple of comments. The first one was some lady, I think it was Lorian from some podcast. She goes, well, she found it funny that cis white males would comment about, I guess, the gatekeeping and inclusivity and exclusivity and OSR. And that really kind of burns me a little bit because, I mean, anybody can have an opinion on things and we're probably still the majority. So you're likely to have them be the ones that are going to comment on it because they do a lot of the podcasting as far as
just
RPGs go. Just by numbers. I'm not saying because you're I hate the term cis. I'm not using that's dumb. That's a dumb statement.
Yeah.
A normal male. Sorry. Hey, sorry, hurt your feelings. I don't care. Just a normal dude, hurt your feelings, go do something else. I don't care. But I mean, we have the right to an opinion. And, I think, and I don't know, Gygax and Arneson's sexual preferences, but they're probably quote unquote cis males too in white. It was created by white males and,
one of the palest parts of the world.
Yeah. And so sorry about your luck. And it wasn't like, I'm not saying like, sorry, it can be sexist and it can be racist because it wasn't. And well, you could say that there's a lot of sexy looking women and men objectified in the D&D game, but you know what?
Sure.
Unfortunately, sex sells in our world. So it wasn't done just because we're these horrible white guys. We're going to objectify women. No.
Well, this the other thing is when people render artistic versions of men and women, they often do it in idealistic ways.
But just the idea that
sometimes exaggerated.
Yeah.
But they're not going to paint ugly folks.
But I'm sorry, you all but caused me to tune out when you start out with a comment like that.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, it's inconsistent.
Yeah, it is.
Essentially, it's saying some groups have valid commentary, other groups don't. It doesn't matter whether you're poo-pooing on cis white males having an opinion. You're poo-pooing on a group of people's opinion and saying you can't comment on this. It's invalid.
You're a man. You have no comment on abortion. Well,
right.
Shut your hole. I do. Yeah. Watch me comment.
Right. So people are going to comment. It's not useful for you to just say your comment is invalid here.
No, it's not. Yeah. You can't do it because of your skin color.
Yeah.
Or your sex. Get over yourself.
So that's I think of that whole thing, this whole Orvar OSR thing, that's what's stuck in my craw most is there's still, obviously there is, there's all kinds of social justice nonsense idiots out there who will in the same breath insist that you affirm this group's opinions and say, if you don't affirm opinions, you're a bad person. But then they'll say, you people over there, your opinions are invalid. So
which makes no sense. It's literally illogical.
It's special pleading type of, it's a special pleading / ad hominem type of logical fallacy. Correct. There might be something more precise than that, but those are the ones that come to my head.
I would call it a non-logical statement or idea. It's not logical. It's not stupid.
You can have your opinion too. Your opinion that I can't have an opinion.
Right.
Which I will ignore.
Yeah, right. I love that. You can have your opinion that I can't have one, and I don't care what you think. Right. So suck an egg.
So don't go to this person's podcast and delete her or whatever.
Do not know. And I've heard her talk before. She's pretty sensible.
Yeah.
She sometimes makes some good points, but I don't think Spencer had to apologize at all. But having said that, I didn't listen to what he had to say in response, which I'm going to. So maybe I will think he needs to apologize. But in the end, he can do whatever he wants. It's his podcast.
Yeah.
And there was somebody that responded to him about his own comment. This is a tertiary response. So after the OSR, and then his, and then these others, and they made a comment. I don't know what it was about Christianity, but it kind of burned me a little bit, just because it was like somebody was like pushing it, and I'm backing off. I ain't going down that road just because I don't know how they phrased it, so I'm not going to say that. But then came up Venger Satanis and the RPG Pundit as examples of bad actors in the OSR. I've seen a lot of RPG Pundit stuff. I get that he's in your face, but isn't he just, how did you say, he's just conservative, right? His views have conservative bents, or he's libertarian. He's not, I've never heard him say
libertarian, but I know he's very
his viewpoints. Yeah, I don't even know how, I don't know why they got such a hate on for this guy.
Well, okay. So probably because he's conservative and isn't hiding it. There's a lot of people that are conservative. They just aren't outspoken about it.
Correct.
They just go with the flow. He's not one of them. I don't know about Venger.
Me neither. I don't know that. Just
he might have some conservative lines of thinking, but the fact that he thinks he's a wizard tells me he's probably not fully, on board with conservatism per se. Anyway,
or sense.
I saw somebody calling RPG Pundit a bad actor on Twitter, and had these Twitter posts where they, posted him up and said, "Oh, this proves he's a bad guy." And I looked at him like, "Oh, no, you don't like what he has to say." He's not telling anybody they can't play. And even if he did, who cares?
Right. He's not coming.
Pundit can't stop you from playing nothing.
Dude, he can't come. I dare him to show up my house. Yeah. I dare him to show up my house, take my stuff.
Right.
He ain't going to do that. He doesn't want to do that. He has a very strong opinion, which we do, which everybody does. Just listen. Everybody wants to. That's why we do the podcast, get our opinions out. But I mean, just to get your feelings. I don't know what their deal is. And
the weirdness is, someone even was saying that these bad actors changed the conversation about OSR somehow. They changed the conversation. Well, we just talked about how assertive people can affect the narrative. It's true to a degree in a game at your table, and perhaps in a message thread online. Someone who's assertive can go on there and keep posting and blah, 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 and get people off on tangents and whatnot. But that's in the ether space. Who cares?
And I'll be honest with you, I don't know. Even the guys at the Dice are screaming. I guess because we're not really OSR people, part of the hardcore community that we are very fond of what the folks we've met that are OSR people. Why don't you just ignore him? I mean, I know RPG Pundit and Zach Smith. Remember that guy, Zach Smith, who had some issues. Though apparently his lawsuits got thrown out. Did you hear that on T-Cars? So anyway, they were tossed out of they originally were given consultant credits for 5e and then taken off.
Yeah.
I don't know why Pundit. I mean, I get why Smith might have been, because he was kind of had some questionable issues apparently, but Pundit, I don't know what he did that made them mad.
I don't know.
So maybe someone will call in and let us know, because they weren't very specific. And there was a guy on the Dice Screaming. I remember reading this a couple of years ago. Do you remember the original blue and white sort of color of the inside the covers of modules? It was kind of a blue and white. There was a guy that used that OSR symbol that gave that free permission. Not James Machaleski.
Something about that.
Somebody. And they mentioned that about him allowing that to be used freely. And then he got upset because, the OSR is not inclusive or diverse or whatever sort of thing he was heard
Mhm.
about, and said no longer. And I'm like, okay, he has a right to do that. And some people, and like they were saying that the dice were screaming, and some people thought that was unbelievable, and they got mad because he did that. And I'm like, you're right, that's stupid. They get mad, but it's his IP. He can do whatever he wants, even if I'm not read it, which I think I did read it years ago, and I think I did disagree with why he was doing it. But I was like, dude, it's yours. Do with it what you want to. I mean, I don't care. You know, you're mad because
And I don't care that people are mad about it.
Exactly. I mean, he's mad because I don't know. Every table doesn't have a transgender person at it. I don't know why he's mad, but I mean, whatever. You know, fine. See you later. I'm going to Cabin Con tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what to tell you. So knock yourself out. But that was just to me kind of a pile of. It feels a lot like a pile of stupid.
Right. And mainly it's a pile of stupid because these two dudes, and they might be all okay dudes, I don't know, felt the need to tell, they rage quit.
Yep.
That's the terminology as close as I can ascertain. Well, they rage quit. They went out of their way to tell everybody we're not playing anymore.
Or they were
this thing.
Maybe they were virtue signaling quit. Because I listened to it. They didn't seem very ragey. They didn't seem mad, but enough to quit. I mean, they're definitely saying, but they also said, we're OSR at our heart. That's how I'm old school in my heart. I'm like, okay. I mean,
they were talking out both sides of their mouth. They were saying,
yeah,
we're not saying the whole movement is this, but we're quitting because the movement is this.
It's like, look, dude, because there's a bad apple in there. People, look, you start anything that's even halfway good size with 24, 5, 6 people, and then you get to 20 or 30. I maintain at 20 for sure you have some bad actors. And you get to hundreds and thousands of people, you're gonna have some bad actors. You have to ignore them.
And they don't control things.
Do your thing. And hey, I don't care if you're part of the community of the OSR or not. I don't give two craps about that.
Right.
But I think and I know Eric Tinkar loves the community, and that's great. And people I've met in the quote unquote community, they seem pretty cool. You know, we've met Eric and Glenn and talked to them. And so, but I mean, I just from my experience as a 54-year-old dude, there's more decent folks that I've run into in the hobby, much more, massively more than the ones that are really problematic. I met some guys that were goofy and weird and strange, and they're a little higher percentage than bad. But as far as bad folks, ones that I would not ever want to be around, very few. It's minuscule.
But of course, we cis white males.
And our opinion, our experiences and opinion literally do not matter.
They don't
whatsoever.
Count.
Even though I've played D&D since, I don't know, 81.
Because there's some kind of weird reality shifting bubble around us, that the invalidation bubble.
That's right. I forgot about that.
Point of view. Yeah. Because outside of that, bubble, the real world apparently happens where everybody's, restricted. And, we just don't see it.
Yeah. Well, that's a power we generate naturally. That's our superpower, where we're always accepted and never put down. Oh, except when they put us down.
Yeah.
Which is kind of constantly now. So whatever.
Do what
you do. You. We're doing our thing.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I just thought it was I don't know. Why would two men have to tell everybody we're not doing this anymore because people said naughty words? Which is essentially what it is.
Dude, we're gonna play White Box this weekend. Okay. We're gonna explore some of the old school stuff. And I may come in here and go, come on back on here and report, or heck, hopefully on YouTube, we're going to be reporting tomorrow night live. We're going to be really tired, so it'll probably be very short. We're going to report every night at Cabin Con. That's the plan. So at least 3 nights. I'm thinking we're going to have something on Sunday because we're staying late. So screw it. And I may say, you know what? OD&D needs to stay back in OD&D. Randy ain't down with this. It could happen, I don't think it will after one game because the nostalgia is strong with this one. But I do think I may end up saying, yeah, old school's not for me. But that's all I'll say. I won't say I'm leaving the movement. I'll still call in the Tinkars. I'll still listen to Glenn. I'll still listen to them because, man, they're cool people and they have good stuff to say because they're still gamers. I don't care if they're OSR flavor or indie art flavor or whatever.
I know we've had a couple episodes about what the OSR is or isn't. And we've barely dipped our toes in whatever it is. But for my money, it's not a clubhouse where some people get in and some people don't.
Right.
It's not a movement where we carry picket signs or anything like that. There's no meetings.
Nope.
It's
Nope.
if it's anything, it's a concept of type of gameplay feel.
A game style feel. And you know what? I jokingly call Eric the czar of the OSR, and that's a joke. He has no control over nothing, and he'll admit it. He just likes, and he gives back to the community, and people that like to do that gather together. People of like-minded views like to get together and do stuff. It's the way it is. And so they're not hurting anybody. And if the way they play hurts your feelings, guess what? Don't hang out with them.
Yeah, I don't care that they decided not to be associated with the OSR anyway.
Yeah,
I don't even really care that they made their podcast and acted kind of, in my opinion, foolish. But it's free country. Do what you want.
I'm sure if they won't listen to this, but if they did, they'd be like, "You guys stink and you're dumb." Okay, fine.
Yeah, fine. I don't care.
Okay.
And everybody's got the right to their opinion to say it. I want to hear.
Yep.
And then we can make fun of them.
Yeah. Or say you're right. I'll be like, And believe it or not, it's possible, though as old and as skilled and as wise as we are, it is possible there could be nuggets of wisdom that Joe and that I have not yet learned. Joe, that's not possible for Joe. He has learned he has all knowledge and wisdom, but I could learn. So every once in a while, you might change my mind. So, go for it. But a lot of times I'd be like, that's dumb. I disagree. Next.
Right.
So, yeah. Anyway.
I will disagree with opinions. I won't disagree with your skin tone.
No. Or your sexuality. I mean, I won't be like, when I say I'm not going to get upset about your sexuality, I mean, it's not me. I mean, people say, well, I can't believe you think this about homosexuals. So you think, look, it's not always me. Look, I'm a Christian. I'm being unabashed about it. I have opinions based upon the Bible about what certain things that you do will cause your eternal discomfort.
Yes. Repercussions.
But you can tell me you don't believe it, and I might as well stick it. I'm like, right on, baby. You want to roll some dice?
Yeah, who cares?
Okay, you do you, baby. I love the Lord, and I believe in what He says. I believe the Bible, and if you don't, we can still roll dice. You can still play at my table. So it's all good. So I think that's it. I feel like we're done with this negativity.
Yes.
All right. Peace out.
It's more funny than it is.
It is.
Else.
It's funny
that people are still insisting on this insanity.
Yeah.
That is social justice.
Well, we have climbed the cliffs of insanity, to quote the Princess Bride. So anyway, all right, man. Cool.